Welcome, everyone. So lovely to have you here this evening. Thank you so much for taking time to sit with me on this summer evening. It's so beautiful outside. We have so much more light this time of the year. It's easy to stay up longer, be outside later. And so I appreciate that you're here and that we can continue to learn together in the spirit of Ayurveda and learning about our hormones. So I decided to put this talk together called Hormones, How They Are Connected and How to Balance Them, because I've been getting so many clients coming to me asking this question: where do I start balancing my hormones? What is the Ayurvedic context of balancing hormones? How do I navigate them going from here? How are they connected? One seems balanced, the other's whacked out. How do I connect them? How do I do it with herbs, with practices, with remedies? And so I want to go into some of this today from the context of Ayurveda, from my clinical experience, and just acknowledge that it's such a vast topic and I'm also a student. I'm also still learning. And what I'm sharing tonight is more of an introduction and an overview. I'm working on writing some modules and articles, or maybe even part of this for a book one day. I'm excited to go into this. And when it comes to our hormones, it's very connected to our longevity and our rejuvenation. And those topics are very dear to my heart within Ayurveda. So I like connecting the dots, seeing how everything is connected, how we can be empowered to heal ourselves in our daily lives. So thank you all for sharing in the chat where you're from, what you're hoping to learn. And I like to always start by just acknowledging my teachers of Ayurveda. In the middle is Dr. Vasant Lad. He's my primary teacher of Ayurveda, and other esteemed colleagues and practitioners are here with us. This was during one of Dr. Lad's many visits to Bastyr University, where he shared with the students about Ayurveda. So always grateful for my teacher. And briefly wanting to share why I do what I do. I have my daughter, Amulia. She's now 15. This photo was taken a couple of years ago on Maui. But all that I do is for her in terms of hopefully showing her a path of healthy living, balanced living, and that she can fulfill her dreams by living in a healthy way. So she inspires me and is definitely one of my gurus. Plus, why I do what I do is to really support you in experiencing your best health and your best life so that you can go on to fulfill your purpose. We all have our unique purpose or purposes called dharma in this life. And so, if we're not feeling well, if we're tired or we're chronically in pain, we may not have energy to pursue our heart's desire and what fulfills us. So, this is what Ayurveda does is it brings us back into balance within ourselves and in right relationship with ourselves and nature so that we can fully experience our potential in this life. So, at the beginning of anything I teach, I always like to start out by getting present to our body, our breath, and our mind, and doing some pranayama, some breath practice. I think most of you have done some of this practice with me together. And this practice of pranayama, Nadi Shodhana, specifically is known to balance the hormones because it very quickly calms the nervous system. It settles the sympathetic nervous system and promotes parasympathetic activity within the body, which immediately lowers cortisol and starts to release bliss hormones and that calm state for other hormones to balance. So we'll go ahead and do a few rounds of this together today. So first of all, coming into our comfortable seat. Maybe it's been a full day. Maybe you've been working or in the garden, attending to many tasks or chores. This is your time to be with yourself, to deepen into yourself, deepen into your learning, connecting with your body, connecting with your heart and your breath. Just placing one hand over your heart, one hand over your low belly, and just noticing how you're breathing today. starting to direct the breath a little deeper into the lungs, down to the lower part of your abdomen, expanding and releasing in this way. And with your hand over your heart, notice your heartbeat. Notice that feeling. You are alive. You are vital. You're in this amazing temple of the body. And then releasing the hands back down into your lap. Together, we will practice a few rounds of Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breath. So make sure both your nostrils are mostly open so that you can do this practice. If you need to blow your nose, you can. And I'll have you rest your left hand in your lap and then go ahead and bring your right hand up. There are a couple of options for how you can hold your hands for this practice. So, the traditional one is to fold your index and middle fingers into your palm, or even your ring finger as well, 2 or 3 fingers into the palm, and then you're breathing back and forth in this way. The other way is to rest your index and middle fingers between your eyebrows so you can see what is most comfortable for you. Okay? So, go ahead and take the hand posture that feels comfortable. And we'll begin by placing the right thumb over the right nostril to close it. Inhale through your left nostril, close with the fingers, exhale right, pause, inhale right, close and pause, exhale left, pause, inhale left, pause, exhale right, pause, inhale right, pause, exhale left, pause, inhale left, pause, exhale right, pause, inhale right, pause, exhale left. And we'll do one more round. Inhale left, pause, exhale right, pause, inhale right, final exhale out the left side. Releasing the breath, releasing your hand back down to your lap. And returning to a natural breath. Coming back to your breath, coming back to yourself, noticing your mind. Are you feeling calmer after this practice? Are you feeling more centered? So, this practice of Nadi Shodhana means purification of all nadis, all channels in the body. So, it purifies the nadis, it balances the right and left sides of the brain and of the body, the solar and lunar channels, and the feminine and masculine channels. And like I said, it also regulates the nervous system. So, it's one of the fastest ways to calm stress, overwhelm, anxiety, and settle cortisol levels. So, Nadi Shodhana, about 5 minutes or 12 rounds, is enough to change your state rather quickly. So, go ahead and rub your hands together, creating some heat, and then placing your warm palms over your eyes. And then resting your hands back in your lap. So we've had a couple more people join us. We have Vern and Sandra and Kale. Welcome, everybody. Wonderful to see you all here. Let's see. I'm just going to minimize there for a moment. Okay, there. All right. So we always like to start with breath practice to get us present to our body and to our content so we can deepen our learning together. So, as I mentioned, if you're just coming on, I did ask everybody to share in the chat where you're coming from, what you hope to learn this evening, and something you are grateful for today. So, when you have a moment, if you want to share that in the chat with us, we'd love to hear. So, our topic today is around hormones. And I just want to clarify it's not only about women's hormones, it's about all the hormones, the whole endocrine system, truly. But I just love this quote so much that I wanted to include it. At her first period, a girl meets her wisdom. Through her menstruating years, she practices her wisdom. And at menopause, she becomes her wisdom. So it's just beautiful to honor the native wisdom in this way and how over time we embody our wisdom through our life experience. So just love that one. And balancing our hormones is truly much less complicated than we think. When I was first looking at hormone health and hormone balance in my practice of Ayurveda, early on years ago, it seemed like this huge uncharted territory. Not a lot of doctors or practitioners or teachers were really speaking much about it. It was not covered in depth, even in Ayurveda. There seemed to be a lot of misconceptions, overwhelm, confusion. And these days, what I'm seeing is so many practitioners all of a sudden are shining the light on it. And I feel like with Ayurveda, we always want to think about integrating. So, looking at the Ayurvedic concept of all aspects of our health, but also integrating it with modern concepts so that we can get the most from it. And so, something I've come to learn is that it's so much easier to do the work to balance your hormones than to live with your hormones being imbalanced. So, if we're living in a chronic state of high cortisol, or our sleep is affected, or our stress hormones are triggered, or our metabolic hormones and insulin is out of whack, it takes a lot of work getting it back on track in a sense. But at the same time, if we maintain our health and preserve it along the way, it's much less complicated. And so that's what we're going to be talking about is the elegance, the simplicity of starting to rebalance our hormonal system. And the idea is to preserve it going forward. So Kale is from Bashan, grateful for being able to walk on the beach. Amazing. Sandra joining from New York City, grateful to have my family support me through my cancer and bone marrow transplant journey. Thank you for sharing that, Sandra. Many blessings. And Vern, Springfield, Oregon, interested in knowing if there's anything I can do to regulate my hormones post menopause if I ever go off low dose HRTs. Grateful for mental, physical healing journeys. Okay, thank you. It's helpful to get present with everybody. And like I was sharing earlier, if there's a question you have along the way, you can put it in the chat, or if you would like to unmute and ask or share something, you sure can. So, this is something I learned recently, and that is we haven't even known about hormones as a human species very long. We've really only known about them since 1905 when some researchers uncovered them and started to research them. So it's just been over 100 years that we've even known about hormones and what they are. In fact, classical Ayurveda and Chinese medicine didn't specifically acknowledge hormones. They include it in their different systems and paradigms, but not as hormones, or that word hormone is a new word. And it's important, I think, to go ahead and acknowledge what hormones are and how they work. So it's kind of a lot of words here, but I wanted to make sure we included all of this. So the endocrine system is comprised of endocrine glands whose secretions contribute towards so many functions in the body. And the secretions are called hormones. And the whole endocrine system oftentimes is known as the hormone system. And endocrine glands are considered as ductless glands that secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream. They all secrete different hormones that interact with each other. They're the messengers communicating between the mind and the body. And as I'm thinking of that, there's something else that communicates between the mind and the body, and that's the breath or prana. So, prana is that bridge between mind, body, and consciousness. And hormones are also a bridge between mind, body, and consciousness. They're subtle yet very powerful. Hormones regulate metabolism, functions of the tissues, growth and development, sexual functions and reproduction, various moods, and so many other functions in the body. And when the hormones are produced in excess or deficiency, they may cause many various diseases. And there's no direct explanation of the endocrine system in Ayurveda, but we look at symptoms related to increase and decrease of expressions or doshic regulation or hormones produced. And in that context, we can better understand it. So within Ayurveda, we tend to observe hormones within the nervous system, which is called the Majja Dhatu. So the nervous system and endocrine system is kind of enveloped in one category. We also view the endocrine glands through the chakras and aim to balance them through regulating the three doshas. And if any of these words are new for you, if you're joining and some of these Ayurvedic or Sanskrit words are new, maybe just jot them down and I can answer some questions about them later. I'm not going to really go into the basics of Ayurveda today, but more specifically, our content here for the evening. So, this is where things get really fascinating. I'm just really in awe of this, and I just want to point it out. Let's see. Okay, so in the middle, you see the chakras. So, the chakra system is the subtle energy system in the Vedic tradition. I'm sure everybody knows about the chakras. There are seven main chakras, and it's acknowledged that the seven main chakras correlate to the primary endocrine glands. And that when we bring about balance of the chakras, we're bringing about balance of the glands and vice versa. So I have a few charts here that illustrates that. Um, so, for example, a one we know a lot about or learning more about is the throat chakra and how it's connected to thyroid metabolism. And one thing I've seen in my practice is clients who are struggling with thyroid health, oftentimes their throat chakra is maybe shut down or suppressed. And when they start working with their throat chakra, singing, humming, chanting, speaking their truth, their thyroid health symptoms start to improve. And so sometimes these subtle acknowledgments and subtle practices can bring about radical healing of the associated glands. And then, so for example, the root chakra is connected to the ovaries or the testes or the reproductive glands, and the crown chakra related to the pineal and pituitary. So you can see how that works. This chart on the far right really shows that as well. Um, the chakras and the glands. Does anybody have any comments or questions about that? I'm curious about your thoughts around the hormones and the chakras. If anybody has any personal experiences with chakras balancing and hormone issues coming back into balance or vice versa. And you can share about it, at any time. Anyway, I just feel like this is such a fascinating approach. It's one way into decoding the somewhat complex endocrine system is through energetics. So we in Ayurveda, we acknowledge subtle remedies such as working with the chakras and sound and color and light and scent. And we also look at gross remedies, larger, more tangible remedies such as herbal formulas and dietary changes. So there's that concept. And we also consider the involvement of the three doshas when we're looking at balancing hormones. We have to always consider the person's unique constitution and which doshas are affected, which tissues are affected, what symptoms are being expressed, how long has it been going on. So, if a person has an increase of vata in their system chronically, they may have more dryness, lightness, cold temperature, and be really on the go physically or in their mind. So, for vata, what can happen, there's like an irregular quality that can happen within the hormones, maybe irregular sleep pattern, irregular digestion, digestive hormones or insulin, blood sugar can be irregular. They might have dryness and that light feeling in the body or less sleep, and that can impact other hormones. So we think about the hormones is, are they getting expressed, and showing up as a vata, pitta, or kapha imbalance? So I just want to give you another lens to think about hormones and balancing them. We always take an individual approach in Ayurveda. And if a person has more pitta in their constitution or more pitta dosha fire, that's active or has been active, they may have more heat or inflammation, sharp quality, oily, mobile. They may have estrogen dominance, or they might have, again, more cortisol running and agitation. These kinds of sharp, hot types of energies or qualities can be present for pitta. So, as we start to calm the doshas, the hormone imbalances can start to settle as well. We start to bring the person's pitta back to balance. Then those other expressions of pitta hormonal imbalance will start to come back to balance. The other category is kapha, the kapha dosha. And kapha is more earthy in water and has heavy, slow, cold, and soft qualities. And if a person has excess kapha dosha long term, they may have sluggishness or depression or hypothyroid, this kind of thing. And this is something we see often with kapha individuals is that chronic heaviness and dullness, dull digestion, and accumulation in the body can lead to stagnation and those types of hormone imbalances. So in the dark color here on this chart, are the qualities that balance. So in Ayurveda, we look at the qualities of the doshas and then the opposite qualities to balance. And that's a whole other class, really, is how to go about balancing the doshas. And I wanted to give you just that overview. I think many of you are familiar with the doshas and the qualities of the doshas, but really, it can be as simple as this. If we focus on bringing our vata back to balance, for example, you might just see those associated hormones or symptoms starting to rebalance. So it can be simple. Sometimes, yes, it can be complicated, but we always want to start with sometimes the most obvious and simple approach. So if there's any questions or comments, you're welcome to pop them in the chat or unmute as we go along. So our hormones truly are all connected. Um, as everything else in our body, nothing is separate. Our chakras are connected, our energy field and our tissues are connected, all of our systems are connected. Truly, we're connected with everything within ourselves and everything outside of us. Everything is really connected. But the hormones, especially the system, this glandular system, it's like a great symphony. I heard a doctor call it that recently. She was calling the interplay of all the hormones the great symphony because all these different notes and sounds and qualities are happening within the body and they inform each other and can make this beautiful melody or this challenging song as well. So if we think about it like that, it makes it a little bit nice to think about. So an example would be how things are connected. An example is when cortisol, which is one of the stress hormones produced by the adrenal glands, when cortisol levels are at a steady high level, it's not uncommon for thyroid levels to be imbalanced. And then in our practice, in our daily clinical practices, we notice that when cortisol levels drop and rebalance, that thyroid levels usually balance as well. Those two hormones, especially, go hand in hand. And so if we address one, the other responds. Not always the same for each person, but it's definitely a place to think about. I feel like, honestly, the first place to start with balancing all the hormones is to see if cortisol has been chronically affected, if it's been chronically elevated for some time. Because truly, I've come to see this and I've heard other practitioners and doctors share this as well, that when we have kind of long-term steady levels of cortisol and stress in our bodies, it's very difficult to balance the hormones. We can't be living with a high level of stress and expect an herbal remedy to address our hormones. It's really everything we do. It's stress management, it's dietary changes, maybe it's an herbal remedy or a supplement or a meditation, but it's just something to be kind of real with that, if we want our hormones to balance, the first place to start is stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. What can I do to offset the impact of those stress hormones in my body, in my life? What are some small practices I can do each day to keep offsetting that so it's not sending that signal through my body? So, this is why we call it the symphony. They're all connected. So, let's see here. We're having others join us on the call. Welcome. Great to have you here. So I have a picture of my friend Anu here. She climbed to Mount Everest base camp last fall, and that's been a lifelong dream. And then one day she got the inspiration and told her husband, "Let's do it. Let's climb to base camp. I think we can do it." And they're both around age 60 and just decided to do it and then planned for about a year to go ahead and prepare their bodies and do that. And I was just thinking of this because, she's had her own obstacles and challenges in life, but she's choosing to live her best life and to move toward her dreams, move from stress to bliss. Not that she doesn't have stress, but this idea that we get to live our best lives in this life, or at least aim for it. And so the way to start balancing our hormones is to mitigate daily stress and the impact of stress, really get clear with how we want to truly be living our lives. Are we living the life that we want? Are we living the life somebody else wants for us? Are we delaying? Are we procrastinating our dreams? What is that? I think that's really at the core of balancing our hormones as well. Yes, offsetting stress, but getting clear and having the courage to step forward, toward what is essential. What is your dream, your heart's desire in your life? And I like to call it moving from stress to bliss. So choosing joy, choosing happiness, pleasure, comfort, um, rather than being in kind of a habitual stress pattern. Sometimes it's a choice, sometimes it's not. I totally get that. Life circumstances happen and we don't always have a say, when there's surprises that come out of left field and cause great stress or trauma in our lives. There's that, but then there's also our perceived stress. How much are we going to allow something to bother us, keep us up at night, keep our mind going in circles? Is it even going to matter in a week from now or a month from now? And so it's kind of a mindset practice as well. Stress, the impact of stress, how we're going to let that affect us. And part of that too is building internal resilience. And Ayurveda and yoga gives us so many tools for building internal resilience so that it becomes easier over time to be less agitated by stressful news we might have gotten that day or overwhelm or something that came out of left field. We're less affected by it because we've been building our resilience. So Ayurveda and yoga give us these tools for building resilience. So let's see here. All right. So there are many ways that I support people in kind of moving from stress to bliss to rebalancing their hormones and their metabolism. And one of them is through my ongoing program, the Ignite Your Life Metabolic and Hormone Reset. I've recently changed the name from Ignite Your Life Metabolic and Hormone Reset or Lifestyle Reset to Hormone Reset because truly all the modules in the reset address hormone balance, but I'm kind of up leveling or evolving the whole program to reflect more tools, more insights on hormone balancing. I feel like there's such a need in our world, and it's just such an active conversation. So I'm starting to evolve this program to include a lot more content around hormone balancing. So in the reset, we focus on daily self care. And daily self care is one of the other primary ways that we balance our hormones. When the body has rhythm and regularity with how we take care of ourselves, maybe our morning and evening routines, then our hormones are more relaxed. There's more ease within us. And so we focus a lot on self care and specific self care for each person. And also in the reset, throughout the 10 weeks, we do practices to enhance our parasympathetic nervous system response, such as the Nadi Shodhana, the alternate nostril breath we did at the beginning of this class. I'll give you another hint as well. So I've been talking about pranayama in yoga. So there's Nadi Shodhana pranayama, but really my favorite pranayam for balancing the hormones is the Brahmari, the bumblebee breath, humming. When you hum, it vibrates the endocrine glands in your brain, it vibrates your thyroid, your thymus, it activates hormone balance and deep, deep relaxation. So that's a little side bonus tip. We're not going to practice it today. We do practice in our reset calls. I work with a lot of clients with pranayama, and this is definitely my number one favorite practice is Brahmari. Or even if you don't have all the details of the Brahmari practice down, you can go around humming. Nice, strong, steady. That humming helps to open your throat chakra, balance your thyroid gland, and bring that nitric oxide release in the body as well. So, be humming breath. Something else we focus on in the reset is enjoying delicious whole foods. So, resetting our digestion and metabolism, our metabolic set point, releasing toxins, releasing visceral fat and toxins that get stored in the visceral fat that throw off our hormones. That gets released in a very gentle way. So, it's a cleanse of the deeper tissues. And toward the end of the reset, we really focus on restoring juice and vitality. We call this rasayana in Ayurveda, the path of juice, the path of vitality, how to preserve our health throughout our lives so we can feel our best. So, this is how we wrap up the reset. And throughout, there's a great emphasis on doing what we love, which we talked about a couple slides back. Ultimately, if we're doing what we love, then the hormones are dancing in this symphony of great balance. So, these are some of the things we focus on. I know some of you on this call have been through the reset, or some of you might have heard about it. So, again, this is one way that I work with clients is in the 10-week program. I also support clients individually in just one-on-one consultations and coaching. And so I have a client named Lisa who recently went through the reset and she finished it about, I guess, about 5 months ago. And I just saw her up in Seattle about 3 weeks ago. And when we saw each other, she had tears. She was so sweet and just wanted to share how that experience had changed her life because it really brought her home to herself, really reconnected her with what she really wants in her life for her health and her body, and just her joy. So her overall health and reset goals in the beginning was to have greater peace of mind and a sense of calm. And when I saw her in Seattle, she said, I still have that. I still have that sense of calm. There's more rhythm in my life. There's less overwhelm. I'm sleeping better. I just feel that internal peace, and that is beyond valuable. So she gave me that feedback. And that's some of the best feedback that I could hear is that, ultimately she arrived at that place of inner calm. As she learned how to eat healthier with better eating habits, she wanted to learn how to have fewer sugar cravings. A lot of clients who start the reset are wondering how it's going to go with cutting out sugar for 10 weeks. But Lisa found on the other side, she just didn't even crave it anymore. That, okay, there's that cookie. I could take it or leave it. I don't really need it. I'll have some fruit and feel totally satisfied. So she's delighted that she's not having those cravings and those blood sugar spikes anymore. One of her goals was to balance a little excess weight and become more fit. And she was able to detoxify and release some essences, but not become depleted. So she was quite pleased by that. And then something she'd been dealing with for a long time was acne and skin issues. And she is in her 50s and just kind of tired of dealing with skin stuff. And so, because of the deep cleanse of the organs, the blood, the whole body, her skin, her liver, her blood cleared up. And even now, she rarely deals with skin issues. Some of her acne she feels was triggered by cortisol and stress. And there's just a lot less of that in her life now. And ultimately, she also has more energy. So, energy when she needs it, and also that state of calm. So, it's that big picture that we're going for, in Ayurveda, and with an Ayurvedic practice and routine is, to go ahead and take some steps to restore our health, but then to preserve our health and just have these things be a way of life. And so I want to share with you some of my best tips so you can gain some personal value from our talk here today. So, when it comes to metabolism, people ask me all the time, how do I rebalance my metabolism? I feel like I've been, in an uphill battle for years. So in Ayurveda, we talk about giving your system a longer break between meals. So having a satisfying main meal and having it be so satisfying that you don't crave a snack or sweets or carbs or caffeine, or these types of things between your meals, and that you have a longer kind of fasting break between meals, whether you're having 2 or 3 meals a day, that your meals are so nourishing that you don't require a snack. And it's when we are having that break between meals, the body detoxifies, autophagy, that cellular cleaning action takes place. And then the metabolism can really stay steady and not fluctuate. So, this is really what I see makes the most difference with metabolism. That fasting, or some people will do intermittent fasting, having all of their meals between an 8 or 10 hour window. We take a customized approach with that, as with everything. And then for energy, this is something else so many clients come to me for is, how to have more energy. And of course, it's a complex question with unique individuals, but I feel like the key to restoring energy is to sync up your own rhythms with the rhythms of nature and the rhythms of the seasons. So right now we are in the season of Pitta dosha. We just had the summer solstice. We moved from Kapha season of spring into Pitta season of summer. So now we are in that, there's more warmth, more sunshine. And to have this regular energy level, Ayurveda teaches us that being in harmony with rhythms and eating at regular times, having our meals at regular times rather than erratic whenever we can or after our meeting or, driving in the car. Eating this irregular way throws off our metabolism, our energy. We can have really big energy crashes and dips this way. If we can at least start by having one of our meals at the same time each day, our bodies will thank us. Our insulin levels will rebalance, our stress levels go down. Hormones can dramatically start to rebalance just by doing this one thing, just by eating at consistent times each day. And it doesn't have to be rigid. You don't have to say, I must eat at noon every day. It's within 1 hour. So if you aim to have your lunch break around 11:30, 12, try not to push it out till 3. Try to keep it within that 1 hour range most days. And maybe on the weekends, it'll change a little with family or social dynamics, but it's really what you do most often that counts. So having those routines around mealtime be consistent will definitely pay off. Um, and my good friend Kale is here on our webinar, and she and I have talked so much about this concept of syncing up our own rhythms with the rhythms of nature and the seasons. It's really foundational in Ayurveda. Okay, so hormones. There's so many tips around hormones. Really, the two I see really being the most impactful is daily routine, how you take care of yourself every day, and stress management. So it's seen that, 80% of more of our health is determined by our lifestyle, what we do every day to take care of ourselves. It's that accumulative action. Every day these things build up to either nourish or deplete or to stabilize or otherwise. So, daily routine, self care practices, and offsetting stress, not letting that accumulate in the body and mind. So, if you're relating to this, if you could share something in the chat, or if you have a question about this, you're welcome to share in the chat or to unmute. So, again, I just want to point out that balancing hormones, it's not always as complicated as it might seem. It can seem overwhelming. But if we are having consistent routine, regular bedtime, learning how to manage our stress, following our bliss, then hormones naturally find their way back to their home and their balance. Okay, so sleep is something that probably at least 70% of my clients have some level of struggle with, especially around the midlife years, women and men. And so, my best tip for sleep, what Ayurveda teaches us, is to go to bed at the same time every night, or at least most nights. Maybe not every single night, but at least most nights. If you can get to bed at the same time, it will regulate your sleep hormones. Serotonin, melatonin will start to regulate and be secreted at the correct time. You'll be able to fall asleep and stay asleep more easily. Whereas if you go to bed whenever you feel like it, and maybe one night at 10:30, the next at 1, then the sleep hormones don't know what's happening. They have a hard time regulating themselves within that, especially as we get older. So, regular sleep time, I've seen this make the most difference with people in my reset program and other programs, is that when they prioritize sleep and sleep hygiene, sleep care practices, that other aspects of their health improve. They start to maybe lose the weight, their inflammation goes down. They have just inner calm within themselves. So, sleep is one of the most important things to pay attention to. Absolutely. And I want to just pause here. I've been kind of talking a bit and just open it to any questions or thoughts or ideas anyone's having. And also, let's take a couple minutes and just write down a few things for yourself that might have landed with you today, or some practices you would like to implement into your daily life. Maybe it's that consistent bedtime, or maybe you're curious about the bee humming breath and you want to look that up, or maybe it's thinking about your relationship to stress. So let's just pause and just write down if there's something you've heard so far that you're curious to explore more and implement into your life. Or if you're interested in the chakras and the endocrine glands and want to know more about that, definitely encourage you to research that and learn about that. Of course, everything can be found online, but there are a lot of yoga books that will talk about this. Okay. Would anyone like to unmute and either ask a question or share with us something you're interested in exploring more that you've learned about this evening? You're welcome to unmute, or if you want to write in the chat what that is, a practice or something you're finding interesting that you would like to explore, go ahead and just write it in the chat as well. But of course, I always love to hear from you. Um, or if you want to share any of your own experiences, we can all learn from each other. Okay, you are all taking it in. All right, I'm going to go on um, here. And so, yes, as you're sitting and thinking with this content, I love to hear from you. So please share either in the chat, or if you want to write me later and let me know some ideas or thoughts you're having. Always love to hear from you. And let's see here. Okay, so I was talking about my reset. I've been offering this for about 2.5, almost 3 years. Some of you on the call have completed it. Some of you have just completed it last week, so it's very fresh. And I used to have set start dates throughout the year, and I will have my next start date July 8th for the next group starting the reset. You can start later, but I like to start a small group together so that we're kind of on the same page with some of the content and can support each other along the way. So, doing this kind of thing or making these changes in a group context is really supportive. It provides accountability and learning. You can hear from each other, be inspired, and lift each other up. So, it's really sweet to experience something like this in a group setting.
Yeah. Can I?
Yes.
Oh, there's a good question coming up. Well, I just wanted to share like something that you shared with me about different people that have done your program is, and what inspired you towards hormones was just seeing how women's hormones were coming in balance through during your reset. And so wanting, just out of doing the practices that you were doing of bringing their lives into balance and self-care and the dietary stuff, that naturally hormones were coming into balance. So I heard that in what you're sharing, but just how that inspired, like, oh wow, if we just added this little bit of element of putting our attention there, how
Yeah.
much difference that could make for women. So yeah.
Thanks, Kale. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, it's true. When we address various aspects of our health, naturally the hormones start to balance and we feel so much better. And so this is something I definitely have been seeing is people will report even during the reset, "Oh, I don't have any period cramps. They're totally gone," or "My hot flashes have been much less," or "My moods are more stable," or even they'll share with me 6 months later that they're maintaining those benefits. And so that's what really motivates me to continue offering the program in this way is that people get results while they're doing it, but also it's sustainable. They maintain them, and that is what really lights me up. And Julie, interesting how cortisol has such an impact on the thyroid. It's true. It's so intimately connected. And if we can start to dial down that cortisol in steady ways, then it's pretty amazing how the thyroid will respond. And Joanne, amazing. Intermittent fasting, regular sleep patterns have really been helpful in the past. I need to refocus on these. Thank you. Yes, intermittent fasting and choosing a fasting window for an eating window for yourself that's realistic for the season that you're in. And so you want to do that in a way that feels good. And I've had a lot of people who finish the reset continue to keep that intermittent fasting window and just maintain their results that way. So intermittent fasting is a way that we would say in Ayurveda to regulate our Agni, our digestive fire. And also, it helps to keep the toxin level down in the body. And then, Joanne, also the regular sleep patterns cannot be overemphasized, how important that really is for every aspect of health. So I'm happy to hear you're re inspired to turn toward those activities again. Jennifer, welcome. Glad you're here. Revisiting and hearing what one knows is best inspires one to continue refinement and deliberate discipline in self care, loving sadhanas. Yeah, and this is true. I mean, a lot of what I'm talking about, it's not, advanced science. It's not revolutionary. It's very simple. It's very simple and practical. But the thing is, we just need to do it and do these things consistently. And then we'll start to really reap the benefit, maintain the benefit. Life is so dynamic. We can get thrown off our center very easily, myself included at times. But what Ayurveda teaches us is that we can always come back. We can always come back to ourselves. We can always come back to our intentions and our health plan for ourselves. Say we've been following a regimen that our practitioner gave us. It's feeling great. We're doing it for a month, feeling the benefits. Then we go out of town for the weekend with our families. Stress levels go up, sleep patterns are off, you're eating random foods on the road, life happens. And so, what Ayurveda would say to that is sure, life happens, enjoy life while it's happening. And then when you come home, return to your optimal health plan. Just keep coming back to your sadhanas, keep coming back. We can spin out in so many directions for so many reasons in this life, in this busy world that we're in. And, the teachings remind us just keep coming back, keep coming home to yourself. And the more we do that, the more quickly balance gets restored. Sandra, looking forward to being intentional about my morning routine and sleep time. Yes, fantastic. Let me know how that goes. I think that will be really supportive on your healing journey that you're going through right now, Sandra. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. And so, some of the benefits of doing these things that we've been talking about, and also things I share in the reset, I just wanted to outline here some things people have reported back. So, there's a reduction in arthritic stiffness and pain and inflammation. Everybody pretty much experiences some version of reduced inflammation, which we know when there's less inflammation, everything starts to feel better, less stiffness, less pain, and irritation in the body. Sustained weight loss, if that's someone's goal, a healthy relationship with food. And this is something I really love so much is watching people who've maybe gotten frustrated with cooking or bored or lacking motivation with cooking for themselves regain their relationship with food, get excited about it again, try new spices, new recipes, and continue, to nourish and feed themselves in a healthy way. People create their regular wellness practices that they maintain. They notice more increase in focus and mental clarity. I've had a number of people tell me how their short term memory improved during that process. Self empowerment definitely is an effect. No more IBS. A number of clients have healed their IBS with the practices we do. More comfortable, regular digestion and elimination people experience. I mentioned earlier that peace of mind. So we in the reset, we're letting go. We're kind of, releasing what no longer serves our body, our mind, our consciousness. And with that, there comes a lightness and a peace of mind. Better quality sleep, fewer PMS or menopause symptoms, feeling sluggish and lethargic to feeling super energized. Migraine free. I've had a lot of people share that their migraines either greatly reduce in frequency and intensity or completely go away. So this makes me really happy. Return to normal thyroid levels, balanced blood pressure, no more depression, and ability to listen to the body's wisdom. I know that's a lot, but these are all each really remarkable results that people have gotten and tend to maintain them as long as they are maintaining their practices and aspects of their program. And so, just to cover briefly the modules that we cover in the reset, there's 10 of them. And I wanted to point out week 5, we really focus on stress and the impact of stress on the body and mind and how to activate the bliss hormones, oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, how to bring more of that into our lives and regulate the nervous system. By doing that, that's one of the keys for down regulating the stress hormones. So there's a big emphasis on that. And then because I'm evolving the reset to focus more on hormones, I'm adding a new module called Balance Your Hormones and Preserve Juice. So we talk about this a lot in Ayurveda is preserving that vitality. How do I preserve it not just next month, but for the next 10, 20 years and beyond? How do I preserve this vitality I've been working toward? So these are some of the modules that we go into, and they all build upon each other and offer a lot of valuable information. And there's a few testimonials. You can look at those as you like, but some of the things I highlighted here, Audrey noticed how her passion for cooking that this program reignited has continued. So again, that relationship with food, I hear it all the time that that passion has gotten reignited. Cooking for oneself has gotten reignited, more in tune with the body's signals and needs. So, this is something we talk about every single call. Keep listening to your body's signals, your body's wisdom, because even beyond all the guidelines, ultimately the body knows what it needs. And Becky shared that what she enjoyed most about the reset was the spiritual awakening that comes with the self love practices. She really turned toward herself and practiced self care and self love and deepened in her spiritual growth. And to her, that was the most valuable. So each person has a unique experience. Just wanted to share a couple that people had shared with me. And if you're interested in having a call with me about the reset, you are welcome to. I don't have the link right here, but let me just see here. I'll just give you my email for now. Okay, so you can, oops, I'm going to put that in the chat here. Just send me an email if you're interested in having a call with me this week. Again, we start on July 8th, and I would need a little time to put your welcome kit together and send that in the mail. And we can go over and see what your primary areas of focus is and if now's the right time for you to do that. So I'll follow up with an email either tonight or tomorrow morning, also with the link to set that up if you're interested. All right. And all right. It's been wonderful having all of us here together, seeing all of you. Many of you I know really well. Some of you I'm just getting to know. Some of you we are meeting for the first time. So as we wrap up, I want you to get present to what it is you are creating in your life and how you want to feel in your life, how you want to feel now, how you want to feel in 1 month, in 5 years. It's overarching idea of how you want to feel, but bringing it into now in the form of an I am statement. So this is something we do in the program as well, is just bringing in your affirmation for yourself. And so you can go ahead and add the words that are true for you and just start by writing I am, and then just add, 2 or 3 adjectives that describe what you're bringing in for yourself in the here and now, how you want to feel now and going forward. I am. I am. Go ahead and just write that down. Okay. And you might be still thinking about it. So even after we complete the call, if you want to sit for a couple more minutes and flesh that out a bit and really get present to, what it is you're creating in your life now. And the suggestion is to repeat it to yourself before you go to sleep. Just repeat it internally before you go to sleep. And then first thing in the morning when you wake up, before you get out of bed, repeat your affirmation within yourself, either silently or out loud. I am. And this so deeply informs your nervous system and starts to change your neurology, starts to change your life. So have fun with that. And again, you might want to write it down on a piece of paper and post it somewhere. So go ahead and take the time you need for that. Okay, I am going to come out here. Let me see. I'll stop sharing so we can see each other a little bit better. Hello, everybody. Okay. Well, thank you for being here and for your presence and attention. And again, this is such a vast topic, and it truly was an introduction tonight, but there's going to be more because, we're making connections and understanding more about hormones all the time. And my goal is to keep it really simple and practical. So, any last questions or comments anybody has at this time? I'm seeing some I am statements in the chat. Kale, I am strong, healthy, and nourished. Yes. Nagme, I am calm, peaceful, and serene. Beautiful. I love those. So, those are wonderful examples. And for all of you still thinking about it, whatever words come to mind, just write it down. I am, and claim that for yourself. Hold that in your heart and watch magic start to happen in your lives. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. So much love.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kale. Thank you. Aaron, I am relaxed, at ease, and supported. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.